Hello everyone, this is Christopher Lugley from CS6320 class, and this is software engineering for web-based systems. We are going to create a project on Ruby on Rails using RubyMine IDE that looks something like this. Now this is RubyMine and we are using the 7.0.2 version, and we are going to create a Ruby on Rails project, a project that looks like a Facebook application, but it's not that complicated. So the name of my project is RubyWall. Ruby, because we are using Ruby Rails and it looks like a Facebook wall, so hence the name. I couldn't figure out any other name, so I came up with that. Now we are going to create this project using three tables, namely user, photos, and comments. As you can see, we are going to use the users table to generate a list of users that's like this. It looks like something like this, where we show the names of the people. You Now displaying IDs is not a good idea because this is like a security threat, but this is a project, so I'm gonna let it be. This gives me an idea of which user has got what ID, and it can be used for educational purposes only. So I'm going to use these tables. Now I'm going to show you the associations between these tables, and it looks pretty much good when you try using the SQLite database data source, and then via the diagrams you can choose Rails model dependency diagram that gives you tables and the associations between them, which is pretty interesting. So we have got three tables. Now if you see, there is a C just in front of the user, so that shows that this is a controller, and it typically shows controllers and not the tables itself. So if you see the controller, the name would be camel case and it's a singular name, whereas if you look at the tables, it would be the same name but it would be plural. So a user would have users table, comment would have comments table, and so on. Now the associations that we have created, and we do this by the model classes that will have almost the same name as the controller, uh, are we use has many and belongs to. So that creates an association that looks something like this. So one user, that's one here, will have many comments. One user can have many photos, and one photo can have many comments. And this we do via the model classes. So we said one user has many photos, that one user will have many photos. But to have this double connection, we have to specify that a photo, oh, I'm sorry, where you go? So a photo will belong to the user. Now this kind of double association is necessary to so that the object of users or photo can access fields from either tables. So if we have an object that is of type photo, we can still access data from user and from comments too, and that's the power of associations in RubyMine, Ruby and Rails. So having said that, um, so these are the tables that we are going to use. Now let us see how this works. So let's start by running the project. Now typically you go to run and just say run, and then it would start running. It would give you a bunch of messages and then finally say that your server is running. Now the one way to check it is by accessing this address, that is 127.0.0.1, and 3000 is the port number for Rails server. You then specify the controller name here that will then call the index page for user. So what this has done is this has called the user controller, here, and this is called index, which then calls a file in the user views that is named index. So you are looking at index.html.erb, that is this, but I assume that the index gets called directly by the controller, and hence it doesn't show like it does in Glassfish sometimes. So this is the index page for my project. I'm showing about 6 users who are currently in the tables, and to verify that it's working properly, I use the count method from the users object that shows that there are 6 users, and then we can see 6 users here. Let's go to one of these users, let's say Justin Bieber. So Justin Bieber will have now currently he has got 2 photos, and then we display the date and time when this photo was created. We also display comments that are highlighted in yellow, so we can differentiate, and then it looks good. It looks quite presentable. We have also included a small icon that shows that it's a comment, typical of social networking sites, but it's just to make it look more presentable. Now this comment was created by Justin on his own picture. So what we did here was we picked the photo from this table, and we picked up, using the user ID, we picked up a comment from this table here, which then looks somewhat like this. Now Justin has commented on his own photo, that's why his name has appeared with the date and time of creation of that comment. Now Justin has commented on his own photo, thus it's a little difficult to show us the associations. Let's look at Barack Obama. Now Obama has got many photos here with its own creation time and the comments that have come on that particular photo. Now this is interesting. Paris Hilton has commented on Barack Obama's photo that goes like this. That's why her name has appeared here. So this is a use of associations that is very, very powerful. It keeps the code clean, and doesn't allow us to use too many joins, and also helps us to stick to MVC. So what we did here was we fetched a photo from Obama using the user ID that's from this table. So we picked up the photo from here, found out his photo that had the name of the photo here, and then the user ID who commented on this photo. Now using that user ID, we then fetched the first name of that user, that is Paris, from the users table, and that's why Paris has come here. Now another good part about this project is that we made links of the users who have commented on these photos. So if you look at the address bar, you will have the same address, but then we have called the photo controller here, which then calls the index page. So typically we are looking at the photo view here, which is called the index page, which by default cannot be seen, and then we pass the ID, which is equals to 4, because Barack has got a user ID of 4. Now interesting part about this is that we have made links out of the names of the people who have created the comment. So on clicking this link, we then are redirected to the page, the personal page of that user. It is kind of interesting if you do not know that user, and it becomes easier to go through the site. So let us look at Paris's page. Paris has got one comment created by John at this time. And to know who John is, sometimes we might know who John is, so that has a link. And now I'm clicking on John, it will take us to his own page. So the photo controller calling the index page, but with a different parameter. So that works out like this. So we call the photo controller that calls the index page, the index method that calls the index page in the view, and then it calls the where, that is almost like select star from the table where, and we pass the ID as a parameter to the user ID. So once that is done, we get this page with the ID is equal to 6. So John has commented on his own photos, those that looks like these, and then we have separated them so that each comment can be seen separately. Now we have also included a back button. I got tired of going through the backs every time to different pages, so I've used a back button that is a link to the user controller, and that brings us to the index page. Project, and now I'm going to talk about some of the problems that I had while the challenges faced while making this project. Now before that, I'm going to talk about the problems that I had. One of the major problems was regarding the associations, and I'm not proud of it, but I had to create a workaround for this problem. The problem was, for each photo that I was displaying, and then the comments that I had to display for that photo, I had to make a loop of that would go through the array of the photos that I got that are in this variable, and then simultaneously add to array through the comments. So having gone through two loops, I couldn't find out a way to use this variable that is looping through the comments table to use this association and find the first name of the user who actually created the comment. So that is a bug and still a small problem, but um, so I had to find a workaround for it, and that is I had to take out the user ID from the comments table and then call the controller in the view to do a find, and then get the first name of that person, which is a workaround. It is a small defect, and I wouldn't recommend this method to be used. So this is one of the problems that I had, and I would like to solve this in the future, when I take this project up, just to clean it up a bit. So this is one of the problems that I had. Now the other challenges that I faced were getting to know controllers in the file structure. So while creating a controller, when we create a controller like this, it creates views. It creates a folder of its own in the views folder. Now I wasn't aware of that, so all my files would be stacked into the views, which would not be called. Having seen these folders, I then had to figure out a way to get my files into these exclusive folders so that the controller would then search for its own folder and then find the file name. Simple to look at right now, but it was kind of complicated, to work around with this file structure that had so many folders in it, and it looks kind of complicated. The other challenge that I had was with associations, and database is not my strong point, but I had to work with the associations. I had to find out a way to create an object from either controllers, and then search through this table, and then consecutively search through this table. So associations were kind of a pain while working with, but nevertheless it did work out well. which is kind of surprising. um, right now, this works well. And then the other challenge that I had was, this was a minor challenge where I had to differentiate between find and where. Finally, I conclude that returns only one record at a time, whereas where will return an array of records. Then you can array through these records and find out which all records belong to that user. So this was a minor challenge that I overcame while creating this file. So I was arraying through the photos, and then I was arraying through the comments at the same time. So that was a challenge. And then I had to use, this is where I used the find, and this is where I used the where to get the array of photos. So yeah. And finally, I had a lot of problems with the link to tag. At first, I assumed we would use HTML anchor tags, but then Ruby has its own tags for anchors, and that is called link2. Now, there are many versions of link2, but I found out this one is fairly simple, where I get to show the controller, the whom I want to pass the control to, the action that I want to call, and the ID that I want to pass as the parameter. This makes it fairly simple. Having said that, a link2 can have another structure that's something like this, which will have an image, as a text for it. So let's look at this here. Link2 has a controller and action, but then by saying do, we create an image that's at this that is this file with a height and a width and a back button. So what this does is it creates linked an image that is a link, and then you specify the controller for it. Slightly complicated, but if you go through the Google Docs, sometimes if you go through some of the solutions on Google, you can find this solution better than the traditional anchor tags. So having done all this, I could help people out in trying to figure out how their project looks like at first, and then making it easier to go through the functionality. Now there are two things that you might want to take a look at before you can jump to running the project. One would be configuring a data source, and then taking a look at connecting the data source and taking a look at the tables that were created. And then the other would be to generate a Rails model dependency diagram that would then give you this association, that gives you an idea that your tables are doing or have the associations that you want them to have. Based on this, you can then modify the code here. So this is one place where I can help the guys out. The other place that so many people are getting stuck is the routes file. One way to check that your routes are working would be to generate the routes um, function. This can be done via tools, run rake test, and just say routes, which would then give you a list of routes that your application supports. And if you use these in your address bar, you would find these pages being called. So you can see routes are generated for the user control, for the photo control, and for the comment control. So these are some places that I'll be able to help the people out if they get stuck or they have errors. Similarly, in coding, sometimes I have used workarounds like this where I use a controller in a view, and I'm using the find function, which is a workaround, not to be used because it doesn't adhere to MVC architecture, but then it's a fairly simpler solution. So these are some places that I can help the people out. And so so this is my project for R1, for the mobile software engineering, uh, for mobile for web-based class. And we would be doing more projects on Google App Engine. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.